What up guys, it's your boy Snow and we are back again for another World Zero video, and for this video guys, we are going to rank all the current perks that we have on this game as per your request. Before we get started, make sure that you've already frozen that thumbs up button, that really helps the channel a lot, and of course subscribe if you want more of this kind of video. Anyway, let's now get started. Perks are by far the most impactful thing that we have on the current version of World Zero. Yes, I know that legendary gears exist, but actually, only the perks matters on the game, well, at least for now. Every single weapon, regardless of its rarity, have the same base damage, meaning if your legendary weapon only has 8 upgrades, that will be just as good as the purple one with the same amount of upgrades. However, legendary items will always be better in terms of its perks because it has 3 perk slots with a slim chance of having one of it as a legendary one. Before we start ranking each and every perk on the game, let me just remind you guys that this is purely my opinion based on my experience and also, in-game observation. So that means it might be different on what you guys think, which is good and which is better. Anyway, let's now start off with our rank S perks, aka the best perks in the game. The first one on this tier would be the Boss of the Boss. Boss of the Boss perk is a legendary perk that gives you an additional damage boost on all kinds of bosses and mini bosses in the dungeon. Basically any boss, including the one on the open world, as long as you guys can see their HP bar on top of your screen. This perk can give you up to 30% extra damage, which is really awesome, especially once you reach the tower. The higher base damage you have, the more additional damage this perk can give, and I think that's why this perk is often considered as the best perk in game. Next perk that we have here on rank S would be the Opening Strut. This legendary perk gives you up to 30% damage boost on everything: normal mob, elite mob, mini bosses, bosses, and world boss. Everything. However, you will only get a damage boost up until your enemy has at least 75% of its HP. Meaning, once the boss, let's say, already was down more than 25% of its HP, the boost from this perk would no longer take effect. The reason why I put this on the highest tier of the perks is because of its flexibility on its application, because as I've said, this perk would kick in on every single battle that you will be at. Let's now go one rank down. Here we have the rank A perks. First on our list would be Elite Boss. This legendary perk gives you up to 30% additional damage, but only on those elite bosses. This is also the reason why I didn't put this perk on the rank S tier. Its application is only limited to those elite mobs, aka those mobs with aura, and usually they're a lot tankier compared to the normal mobs, which makes them hard to kill and probably the reason why your run is slower. Speaking of normal mobs, the next perk on this tier would be the Mob Boss. This legendary perk gives you up to 30% additional damage as well, but only for those normal mobs. It is indeed a good perk, but its effectivity on the battlefield is not as big as those previous perks that we have mentioned earlier. Depending on what class you are using, normally you only need to use 2 skills to kill a mob, sometimes even 1 if you are a berserker, but with this perk, killing those annoying golems would be a lot easier and faster. Another perk on this list would be the Walking Speed perk. Who doesn't want to move faster? Walking Speed is really good perk, especially once you have reached the tower. Keep in mind guys that your moving speed also applies even when you are riding your mount, which makes it really useful because it will always be activated anytime, anywhere. The max moving speed perk that you can get from a gear or a pet is 5%, which is in total, you can have 15% additional moving speed if you will have 5% on your armor, weapon, and also your pet. Next would be the Attack Up perk. I might be wrong on this one, but the highest Attack Up perk that I've seen was only 7%. So I'm not really sure guys if it is possible for it to be higher than 7. As far as I'm concerned, you cannot get this perk on armor, which means you can only possibly get 14% attack up maximum if you will have them both on your weapon and also your pet. The name of the perk already speaks up to what it does, but based on my experience, it is not really that easy to get an attack up perk even on pets, let alone whether it is gonna be 7% or not. Next up would be the HP up perk. Just like the attack up, the name of this perk already says it all. I think it would be reasonable and probably obvious if you cannot get HP up perk on weapons, but I think the max HP up perk that you can get on current items is 15%. I know there are some pets that has higher percentage on a Discord server, but I will address it later before we end this video. The final perk on this tier will be none other than the damage reduction perk. In my opinion, this is as good as the HP up perk simply because it decreases all the incoming damage, leaving you room to escape or just to be in a safe place while battling. Its effect applies to every single damage, so it's really good to help you sustain those burst damage from the bosses, to avoid dying in a run. Let's now jump into the next tier, and that's gonna be the rank B tier. First on our list would be the burn chance perk. As you guys can see on this clip, the percentage on your perk is the chance of you dealing burn damage to your enemy for 3 seconds, meaning additional extra damage. However, I decided to put it on the rank B tier simply because of how low of a chance or percentage you can get per each perk. I have never seen a burn chance at 10%, and in fact, I have never seen one from a pet. Again, I'm not saying that it is only obtainable on weapons right now, but so far, that's what I think it is. Next one would be the rough skin. Rough skin gives you a chance to not get hit by a mob, but also transferring the damage to the enemy itself. You can see in this clip how it works, and I think it is indeed a good perk, but the percentage that you can get per perk is pretty low. I think you can also only get this perk on armors, but nonetheless, it is a decent perk to have depending on your luck of activating it. For the next perk, we got here the life drain perk. This perk allows you to gain HP based on the percentage on your perk and the damage that you dealt. This helps you to get free heals, however, I put this perk on this tier because of how underwhelming its effect is. I haven't seen a life drain perk at 10% as well, and that's why its effect is almost not noticeable at all. The Untouchable perk is the last one on this tier. Untouchable perk gives you a chance to not receive any damage at all from your enemy. I think the max percentage that you can get per perk is 15%, but as you guys can see on the clip, it is almost the same as the rough skin but without dealing damage to your enemy. This perk is good in those situations where you're about to die and can even probably save the whole run if you are in a dungeon and if you will be lucky to activate it. Let's now go to the rank C, aka the worst perk of the game. Believe it or not, we got a legendary perk on this tier, and that's gonna be the Fortress. Fortress gives you extra HP, which is good, but it comes with a price. Your walk speed will be deducted by 20%. Yes, that's a negative 20% walking speed, which is a lot considering that currently, the max walking speed that you can get is 15% for all of your items, including your pet. The deduction on your walking speed is really bad, especially on the tower. However, you can utilize this perk by simply switching on the gear only when you are fighting a boss. I put it on the worst tier because I cannot be bothered opening my bag just to switch back and forth, but I'm still hoping that the developer would change this. For the next one, that's gonna be the bonus health regen perk. You might be asking, wait a minute, that's a health regen snow. Well, that's true, but the percentage that you can see on your perk gives you a bit more HP whenever your auto regen kicks in. I think this perk could have been better if it would rather reduce the time that you need before your auto HP regen activates, but yeah, that's the reason why it's one of the worst. For the final perk on this list, we got here the Shifted Aggro perk. Shifted Aggro perk comes in positive and negative values. Positive value means the mobs will more likely to be aggroed to you, and the negative value means the mobs will less likely to be aggroed to you. In my opinion, this doesn't really help that much simply because in real life grind, this is pretty much useless on solo players and even on towers. Its effect doesn't really matter much because you can just simply stop attacking and run away to lose the aggro of the boss or a mob. Now let's jump into those miscellaneous tier perks. These are special perks based on the situation or dungeon where you are at. All the resistance perks will be here. Resistance perks, guys, gives you a chance to not get any debuff status. Resist Poison is good for World 2 and World 4 dungeons because there are some mobs that deals you poison. Resist Frost is good in World 3 obviously because there are mobs that slows you down. Resist Burn is good in World 2 for the final dungeon and also on the tower for you to avoid yourself getting burned for 12 seconds. And the Resist Knockdown is good for those dungeons that has a lot of golems or pretty much any boss that can knock you down to the ground. Bonus gold perk is also good on early game for them to earn gold faster. And of course, the bonus pet food chance is good whenever you are trying to farm for pet food to evolve your pets up. I would also put the crit stack perk here simply because of how vague it is. There's a post on the game's official Discord server saying that the meaning of this critical perk is hitting a mob grants extra critical chance stacks up to ×5 hits, where the max critical buff is the percentage that you see on your perk stat. But without any visual cues, just like on those debuffs, just like the burn, poison, or frost, that is something hard to test. Currently, there's no available information about how it exactly works, but based on my in-game observation, most probably this perk affects your chance to deal more critical damage, but with its percentage, I think it would be barely noticeable. But yeah, the best tier that I can give if ever for this perk would be probably at rank B tier. One more thing guys that I also wanted to mention here on this video is about the perk updates that happened before and after the free release. Before the free release, Pets has a chance to get a legendary perk, which is now impossible because of the recent balancing changes. Some perk percentage is also relatively higher compared to what you can see right now, just like those pets on the Discord trading that has 14% walking speed. But yeah, like what I mentioned earlier, the maximum percentage that you can now get for walking speed will be 5%. Balancing is just really normal on this type of game, but it is just unfair and it doesn't really make any sense that those perks still exist even after the balancing, which makes it really unfair for newer players. But anyway guys, that is my ranks for every single perks that we can see here on World Zero. I would love to know your top 5 perks as well, so don't forget to drop it down in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again on the next one. Stay cold. Peace out.